Hiya, and welcome to Geek Raider, a channel dedicated to freakish mutants and dirty douche water. In today's video, we're going to be continuing our look at the classic Tomb Raider series. And if for some ungodly reason you haven't seen my previous video on Tomb Raider 2, then firstly, what the fuck? And secondly, I'd recommend you start there first, because in this video, we're going to be focusing our attention on the next game of the series. You know, that game. Developed by Core Design, Tomb Raider 3 was released on November 20th, 1998 for the PlayStation 1 and the PC, and quite frankly, despite its insane difficulty, it's actually a personal favourite of mine. Tomb Raider 3 is notorious for being regarded by fans as one of the hardest, longest and veiniest games in the franchise to date. And as a lisping homo, I guess that's why I love it so much. So without further ado, let's take a look at the painfully awesome world of Tomb Raider 3. Tomb Raider 3's story starts off with you playing as Lara Croft, who, similar to the previous two entries, is a bodaciously big-breasted booty kicker who's about to go on a dangerous adventure to obtain some mysterious ancient artifacts, each carved from a giant space testicle which, when combined, has the power to turn any living being into a double-ended dildo spider. Not quite sure why Lara wants that, but anyway, she does, and it's up to you to help her find these artifacts before your soon-to-be arch-nemesis, big old Dr. Willy, uses them for very bad intentions. It's a simple yet fun story which doesn't really require too much thought, and I honestly think that that's one of the main reasons why Tomb Raider 3 appeals to me so much. The story is easy to grasp, and it doesn't detract from the gameplay as much as you see with the current installments within the series.
Mother?
Also, another one of the things that I really enjoy about Tomb Raider 3 is that it takes a slightly different approach to storytelling than its predecessors. Unlike Tomb Raiders 1 and 2, in Tomb Raider 3, almost every level is sprinkled with cutscenes that help to drive the story and remind the player of the ultimate end goal. They also act as an excellent segue into completely new areas, which helps the player to follow along with the story a lot easier than previously. In addition, these cutscenes also bring up many new questions like, what the hell is Nick Carter doing here? And, Mum? Is that you? Still, I find the cutscenes of Tomb Raider 3 to be highly rewarding, and they are great in communicating the story, which overall is pretty damn fun. So with all of this in mind, I'm inclined to score Tomb Raider 3's story a solid 8 out of 10. And then we move on to the levels. Now, Tomb Raider 3 boasts an impressive 20 levels, 21 if you're including Croft Manor, which is 3 more than its predecessor and 6 more than the OG game. And I'm trying my best not to make a penis joke here, but the size and length of these levels are just right. I find that the stages in Tomb Raider 3 are a lot more varied than the previous games, with some occasionally being long, like the lost titty of Tinos, to some being much shorter in length, like the anal cavity of Kalia. Now, I actually quite like this, as I find it adds variety to both the pace and setting in the game, whereas before in Tomb Raider 2, there were times where each area was so big and juicy that sometimes they just amalgamated into one giant slog, like the shipwreck missions for example. So again, this is another area where I really think Tomb Raider 3 shines. Equally, the levels in this game look incredible. The use of triangular polygons and the modified Tomb Raider engine adds a real depth of detail and immersion that wasn't in the previous two games. Now, Lara's able to climb across crooked tree roots and ledges that were previously impossible. What's more, Core Design were clearly having a field day when it came to implementing lighting. It takes these environments to a whole other level. That is, if you're playing on the PC, because if you're playing on the PlayStation 1, well, Good luck. Flares have never been as necessary as they are in Tomb Raider 3 for the PS1, particularly in India and London. Maybe it's just my crap vision, but it seems like Core felt somewhat obligated to make everything black as night in this game, which can be a real challenge and sometimes not for the right reasons. In addition to this, the levels in this game also significantly increase in difficulty, and for those that have played this game, you know that I'm putting it lightly when I say that. In a lot of instances, the game's level design is really clever. However, sometimes I feel it's a little bit too clever, with many of the levels being so ridiculously challenging that I still haven't been able to complete them 25 years later without referring back to a walkthrough. Shout out to Stella's Tomb Raider site here for keeping me sane during my childhood. Split paths are probably the biggest difference compared to the previous games. In many cases, you will go left instead of right at a crucial junction and then end up needing to take the right path after all and have to go back and redo it. Although I found this mostly occurred in the earlier levels of the game for me, so it wasn't too much of a stress. So with all of these factors in mind, I'm going to score Tomb Raider 3's levels a sexy 7 out of 10. And last up, we have gay play. Now, Tomb Raider 3's core gameplay doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel as such. However, what Tomb Raider 3 does do is provide the player with a brand new set of challenges in which crouching, vehicles and save crystals will either be your best friend or your arch bloody nemesis. The range of new movements that Lara is able to perform adds a real freshness to the already solid gameplay mechanics. The introduction of crouching and sprinting are also a much appreciated addition to Lara's new moveset that probably could have been implemented in the second instalment, to be perfectly honest. Like, imagine how great it would have felt just sprinting out of the dragon's lair with that fresh Bartoli blood dripping down your ball bag.
Oh yeah.
For Tomb Raider 3, I also found that Lara's sprint mechanic significantly helps with timed puzzles, and the fact that she can also crawl through low, narrow crevices comes in super handy as well, especially when you're running from scary dogs, killer trains, and of course another T-Rex. Oh, and she also climbs monkey bars now, which is another really nice new touch that enhances the overall gameplay. And it's not just new moves that makes the gameplay here so fun. Lara also drives new crazy vehicles like handheld mini submarines, sexy quad bikes, and the most difficult to maneuver kayak known to man. In my opinion, Tomb Raider 3 has the perfect balance between puzzle solving and fast-paced action. On the one hand, Lara finds herself bouncing across the globe like a porn star on speed, but at the same time she's still challenged with finding switches, levers and keys to progress. If anything, Tomb Raider 3 is more like the first game than the second in its approach, built on exploring vast areas in search of the right place to go, and it is fun with a capital Z. So with this in mind, I scored Tomb Raider 3's gameplay an 8.5 out of 10. Tomb Raider 3 is a deeper, more varied game than before, yet it is crazy difficult and depending on what console you're playing, very bloody dark. But nonetheless, the experience of Tomb Raider 3 overall is just one of immersion and ultimately it's a lot of fun. So to answer the question of, was it any good? You're damn right it was. And just like that, this video comes to an end. I'd like to thank you for joining me in this video as we explore the greatest video game franchise of all time. I'd absolutely love to know if you agree or disagree with my score in the comments, and feel free to subscribe, or hey, don't, it's no skin off my nips. So thanks again everyone, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Peace!